Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about American freedom. We're going to talk about an American Batman. We're going to talk about bandages. We're going to talk about bandages, restoration, and justice. All right, here we go. Warning, spoilers for Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz 2022 The Batman. All right, okay. So I really didn't know if I should go see The Batman 2022 when a movie like this drops, something that Batman is really special to me. I'm not going to go into long detail. I'm just going to say Batman is really special to me. So I decided not to see The Batman, right? And I was like, like the world's cracked in half. You shouldn't be running off and spending $100 this weekend to see a movie, right? And spending, like, by the way, Batman is 2 hours and 58 minutes, and long, and it's a half an hour 45. Like, legit, it's a 4 hour block each time I saw it, right? So I've seen the Batman movie 3 times. Now, how on earth did I end up seeing the Batman movie 3 times when I decided not to see the Batman movie? Well, here's why, okay? I'm not going to go say, the world's cracked in half. I'm going to watch a movie, right? But you know what I will do? I will absolutely do what my friends ask me to do. I've always done that, and Vladimir Putin is not going to steal that from me, right? So I go to church. I'm very blessed. I have an incredibly nice church. Got this new guy, came in from church. No wife, no family, all right, and he's brand new. He's been there about 2-3 weeks, right? And I've talked to him a couple times, but I didn't make a point to make friends with him or anything, just because I'm not a great friend. So I try not to really reach out to people, right? Scott Garibay a lot of stuff really well. Being a friend ain't one of them. Right? I'm like plagued at being a bad friend. I'm not a great friend, right? So I'm not looking for new friends, right? But this guy, he circles over. I go to men's Bible study on a Wednesday, and this dude circles over and he goes, "I heard you play Magic the Gathering," and I was like, "Yes, I do." "I heard you play another game." I was like, "Yes, I do." "I heard you're a comic book collector," and I was like, "Yes, that's correct." And he goes, "Yeah, I do all those things too." He goes, "Are you seeing the Batman movie this weekend?" And I was like, are you seeing the Batman movie this weekend?" And he's going like, "Yeah, well, I was thinking maybe we could go." And I was like, "Yeah, cool, no problem," right? So my reputation precedes me as king nerd in my church, right? And so I went and saw the Batman with this guy, and it was great. Like, he was on point. Like, he showed up, had a black baseball hat with the black knit bat symbol, black Vans jacket. I'm a big skate nerd too. Like, I skated a lot when I was young, and I was like, Batman. And so we talked about it on the way there, and then we talked about it on the way back, and had this deep philosophical discussion about the movie The Joker, the one that made $1 billion with Joaquin Phoenix. It was amazing, right? So then my other friend is like, that I haven't seen in months, right? He's like, "Hey, we got to go see the Batman." Calls up and he's like, "When are we seeing it?" And I'm like, I'll get the tickets, right? And then 2 of my other friends are like, I heard it was really good. We got to go see it, right? So 3, one person who's not even my friend, right? Who I was trying to keep at arm's distance. One of my friends and 2 of my other friends asked me to go see it, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go, right? And this happens to me a lot now. I end up seeing a lot of movies 2-3 times because I love movies, right? And when I see a movie, I got a freaking million ideas in my head. Y'all know how I can talk, right? So if people want to go see a movie and then they want to go sit at a diner for 2 hours and talk about it, right? I'm that guy, and people know it, right? And so when a big movie arrives, that's what happens, right? So I watched this movie, and I want to talk to you about our need for a 2024 Batman president, all right? Because that's what we need, all right? Let's get into it. All right, so the movie opens. Robert Pattinson is an amazing Batman, by the way. And the movie is fantastic. You absolutely see it. Be warned, it's 2 hours and 58 minutes long. Right? It is not a short film, okay? So basically, I start watching this movie, right? And basically, so what happens is Gotham, and there's a subway, and there's a gang on the subway, right? There's 10 guys from a gang on the subway. And there's this poor dude, and he's just going about it, and he is a working man returning from his day of work. He's tired, and you could tell he just got off an 8-hour shift somewhere in a cubicle, and he's just on his way home, right? So these guys see him, and he's just tired and bedraggled, and they click in on a mark. And it's also clear that they have a new member, and they're going to jump him in, right? So 9 of them are going to grab this guy, and they're going to have their friend beat him to a living pulp, and that's going to be his initiation into the gang, right? So they grab this guy, they pull him into a dark corner in the subway, and they all circle up to deliver a savage beating to this working man, right? This American working man. And here's what happens. So the Batman comes in, right? And he saves this guy, right? And he does, there's 3 things that are needed. And Batman does 2 of them, okay? So what he does is he immediately just grabs the guy and points him to the exit and is like, you go, I'll handle all these dudes, right? And what he does in that moment is he restores that man's dignity, right? Because what had been stolen, because there wasn't much, because Batman was on it, right? They pulled him into a corner, they roughed him up, and he, at this point, they've just grabbed his clothes, right, with their, claws, right? Actually, they've like grabbed him, right? And they've grabbed him in a rough way. So all he has right now is he has a few scrapes, and he's lost his dignity. And the reason why he lost his dignity is he actually cried. He cowers, right? And when he realizes that he is in for a savage beating, maybe even going to lose his life, he shows all of his fear, and his courage just evaporates, and he loses his dignity. He cowers before these men, right? And so Batman comes in, and he's like, and doesn't say it with his words, says virtually nothing with his words, I think. Just like literally arrives, right? But as his actions, he's like, you go, he just literally points to the exit, and the guy walks away, right? And so, and he, with his actions, he says, your dignity is restored, restoration, right? But then the Batman ain't done, right? He delivers justice. And what they had intended for, and what all 10 of the, with all 10, except for the one person who was getting initiated, who looked very hesitant to do it in the beginning, all 9 of the dedicated, committed members of the gang, Batman delivers justice. Swift. All right? So, all right. So let's look at this in the context of what's happening right now, right? Vladimir Putin has wounded America. He's wounded us in 3 ways. He's wounded our American security. A lot of Americans don't feel secure right now. He's wounded American wealth. There are a lot of Americans who are going to really struggle to buy milk and gasoline and bread and every other thing. And there's going to be a lot of things. Like, can you imagine the Christmas that's coming up? Right? The Christmas we just had. Can you imagine how many American children are not going to have things under the tree this year? Right? Like, yeah, he has wounded America, right? So he's wounded American security, he's wounded American wealth, right? And not for our richest Americans, but for the average American. Oh, it's gonna hurt. Their wealth has been wounded, right? So you have this situation, and he has wounded our American hope. Our hope. There are hopes that Americans had for this future that look utterly absurd at this point, right? Just like, you're not going to build these in a caves and clubs question world, right? You're not. There's just a million things that just look like foolishness now that we used to do routinely in America, right? So we're wounded, right? Now, just like that man in the subway, he actually needed 3 things. Batman only gave him 2, right? What he really needed was care. He needed somebody to come up and just take a moment and say, and it's going to happen after the, actually, he needed somebody to come up and say, hey, you're wounded, right? But it scrapes, right? But but there was an intention here, right? But let's deal with what was. The first thing is care. He needed somebody to come up and just bandage him. He needed the bandages, right? He needed somebody to come up with a first aid kit and some alcohol, clean the scrapes on him, cut the gauze to exactly the right size. Just take a minute and say, "Are you okay?" And hand him a bottle of water, and just give him the bandages, give him the care, right? The bandages, right? Then he needed restoration. He needed his dignity restored, right? And the last, he needed justice. He needed justice. He needed justice because his dignity had been taken, right? Now, we as Americans, we don't get care, right? Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, I'm sorry that I keep saying that. Like, I'm trying to remind myself, this man is president. He's trying to do the best job he can. He's horribly failing, but I don't think what's happening now is anything he intended. This is all unintentional. And he intends, what does Joe Biden, what is he going to give us, right? Is it going to be care? Is it going to be restoration? Is it going to be justice? Well, I can tell you right now, there's going to be absolutely no restoration and no justice on President Biden's list. It's not even on his list to give it to us, right? He does want to give us care. The problem is, when President Biden goes to give America care for what's just happened, for our wounds, he's opening the first aid kit and it's empty. It's just the wrappings of the bandage. No scissors, no tape, no gauze, just a few wrappers blowing around on the bottom. He wants to give us care. I believe this. Right? I even thought there was a point where, President Biden was callous. I'm starting to rethink that, right? I think every single thing that's happening, he had no intentions of it. I really think he had no idea what was coming. When he signed up for this job, we were living in a pre-March 2020 world. He had no idea what was coming. He really had no idea what the job was going to be. He had no idea that what he had saw in the under President Obama's administration would be like a Sunday picnic. And we went through the 2008 financial crisis, right? Like, there was a lot of things that happened in the 8 years that President Obama, I voted for him twice, and Joe Biden had no idea what was coming, right? So none of this was intentional, right? And I think President Joe Biden really wants to care, but the it's super clear. Like, if anybody's paying attention, right? Like, the first aid kit is empty. There's not going to be any care. Now, because of the nature, he's a Democrat dove president. There's not going to be any restoration. There's not going to be any justice under him, right? But in 2024, we can get that. We can get the restoration president, a president who's going to read the list of what Vladimir Putin took from us, and it's going to restore everything that can be restored, and he's going to give us justice. We can get that, right? The president can give us justice. I shouldn't say he or she can give us justice. Will give us justice against Vladimir Putin, right? I'm not sure what that justice is. I'm not sure what it is, right? I'll leave that to a strong hawk president, right? And that could be a he or a she, right? Be any gender. It could be a non-binary, right? Like, we can have a strong non-binary hawk president. I'm sure of that, right? I'm sure we can have a strong female hawk president. I'm sure we can have Tulsi Gabbard. I'm sure we can have a strong male hawk president, Chris Pratt, right? Like, we could pick. We get to pick. We get to pick, right? One thing I should warn you, though, we're never going to get the care. And the reason why is the president that's capable of giving us restoration of everything that Vladimir Putin has stolen from America is not going to be carrying a first aid kit. We'll get the restoration and we'll get the justice. I'm not sure what form that'll be. We'll leave that up to the wise hawk president, right? But I believe we need a Batman 2024 president. We need a Batman that will not give us care, will give us restoration, and will give us justice, right? And, for me, I'm just an American citizen, right? It's not for me to say what form that justice should be. But there definitely should be some justice. And we're going to need a Batman president to give it. Batman doesn't give care. He does give restoration and justice. That's the kind of president I want. My vote for 2024 president, Batman. Or whoever can fit into his boots, really. That's okay. So right now, I think that list is Tulsi Gabbard, Chris Pratt, The Rock. I'll take any of those. Yeah, yeah. So I think that's where we are now. What do you think? Who do you think could be our Batman president? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comment below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.